So tool number three is journal your inner genius. I want you to write things down. Like if you get sick of me saying these three words, uh, just know that I'm going to double down on it. Write it down. Write it out. Write out your gut feelings. Ask questions like, what's my inner voice telling me today? Or why did I eat that second slice of cake for dessert last night? I'm just kidding. Answers will surface no matter what you ask. At
Welcome,
least
champions, to another training from our Think and Grow Rich series. Here, what we do at Champion Circle is to bring you the education, bring you what you need to learn in order to apply the principles to think and then to grow rich. And we love doing these trainings because Napoleon Hill lays out 13 principles to be able for us to look at, absorb, and apply into our life. Champion Circle is a professional organization focused on helping individuals to become high achievers at accelerated results and at accelerated rates. And I'm so glad that we have our speaker lineup here today to be able to talk about not just one, but two principles in this wonderful month of December. We bring in the last two principles, principle 12, which is the brain, and 13, the sixth sense. And I'm very excited because who doesn't want to talk about more Think and Grow Rich? I know I want to talk about it all the time. So let's jump right into it. First, we're going to start off this wonderful training from hearing from Mr. Ian Stermer, who's going to start us off with talking about the brain and the sixth sense. Ian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, William. So the brain, as we talk about Think and Grow Rich, and the very first word in that title is think, and think is talking about the brain. The brain is the control center of everything else going on. And understanding, I guess, how the brain works, or that the brain does work, is the focus of this. Taking control of our conscious mind. So the brain is a combination of conscious and subconscious. And we just talked in our earlier seminars or lessons here about the subconscious mind and how that works. But the more we understand the subconscious and bring that forward into the conscious of our mind, the more we are aware of what's going on and able to take control of that. There's an old story of a man who went to the doctor saying that every time he drank hot chocolate, he had the stabbing pain in his eye. So the doctor looked at him and said, well, take the spoon out of the cup first. Still the example, but how often do we have things that happen to us that we just don't understand why? Like, oh, this is always happening to me. I always have this problem. This, whenever these ununderstandable, experiences are going on in our mind because we don't take time to consciously look and see what's happening. The brain is continually transmitting and receiving signals. And some of those are on the forefront, the conscious of our mind. Some of those are buried in the subconscious, deeper down. But the brain works in a way that we can understand these things if we take the time. And the first thing that we need to do is take time to be introspective. Look inside. Look for why things are happening. Examine what's happening. Simply taking that time. Now, Think and Grow Rich goes through 13 steps. And each of those are things that we consciously have to look at in our life. Now, we're probably doing all of these things to some extent in our lives without realizing it. But the key of Think and Grow Rich, the secret of the magic of it, is to take those things and bring them to the forefront. Focus on them, examine them, and understand them. So again, those 13 steps, desire, faith, autosuggestion, specialized knowledge, imagination, organized planning, decision, persistence, mastermind, transmutation, the subconscious mind, and then, of course, this week, the brain and the sixth sense. Each of those are things that go on in our brain, in our lives, without necessarily understanding or knowing that it's even happening. But if we look at each of those and take time to introspect, starting with desire, what is our real desire? What do we really want in life? What is it that really is at our core moving us forward? And taking time to examine them. And then doing that with each of these steps. saying, what is that step meaning to me? Taking that time to focus on and understanding what's deeper in our mind and what's on the surface and bringing those together in the brain. Because the brain, again, is that combination of the conscious and the subconscious. And as we start to do that, as we examine it, we begin to realize that we are continually transmitting and receiving things in our brain. Now, I'm going to reverse those a bit and talk about receiving first. Now, this gets a little on the woo-woo side of things about what we're receiving into our brain. But I'm more of a science guy, and I think that there's truth behind this that's explained more simply. But we all, at some time in our life, get these flashes of inspiration. Suddenly, something comes into our mind. And whether it comes from the universe out there, from a higher power, or from something buried in our subconscious that just come to the forefront, really is irrelevant. What matters is how we understand that these things are happening. So we may suddenly get a flash of inspiration. And if we take time to stop and say, okay, I got this inspiration. Why did I get this now? Say, oh, you know what? Well, every time I'm singing Yesterday by the Beatles in the shower, I get an inspiration. Well, hey, now we've learned something. Now we understand that our brain receives things when we take certain actions. Or maybe it's when I sit in meditation, I receive things. Or maybe it's when I start whittling wood, I receive things. But the key is to understand when you start to receive and look at those things, introspect about why I received them at those times. And as we do that, we can take those subconscious things and bring them to the forefront and put ourselves in the frame of mind to be able to receive more often. And that's the key. If we want to be successful, we've got to really tap into our brain beyond just what we always know and think and do. The old saying that, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If we want to be successful, if we're not successful now, we want to become successful, we can't achieve that by doing the same thing. And it all begins with the brain and how we think and understanding how our individual brains work. How do we receive inspiration? How do we receive information around us? And as we receive that, we also are going to be transmitting to other people around us. Now, a big part of Think and Grow Rich is we're not going to do it all on our own. And I know we're talking about the brain here, and that's something within ourselves, but it's something we need to connect with other people. And we need to be able to transmit our intentions, our thoughts, our desires, our needs to people around us, more than just with words. Now, a simple example of that, my wife is a great observer of people, and we'll sometimes go to church and she'll point out, oh, that person is really rich. And it's not because of how they dress or they're wearing a certain type of clothing or certain brand of purse or watch or something, but it's their mannerisms, the way they act. They transmit a certain amount of ideas about themselves. And I'm not saying this in a negative way that they're just trying to boast or something, but each of us transmit to people around us the thoughts and ideas in our brain to an extent. If we want to be successful, if we want to be rich in our lives, whether it's money or friends or feelings or accomplishments, we transmit those things. And as we learn to solidify those thoughts in our mind, we become those things through the thoughts and actions we take. And as we become that, we transmit that to other people. And that allows us to connect with other people. Now, whether that's a mystical sixth sense woo that's coming out to connect with another person, or whether it's the subconscious understanding that that person is looking for the same things I am. That person has achieved where I want. And we're attracted to those people in that way. And those people are attracted to us. And I believe that's the transmitting and receiving that the brain does on a level below our consciousness. Whether it's a telepathy, as Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich, whether it's just the very subtle changes in demeanor and eye contact and all of these things is irrelevant, really. The fact is that it does that. And as we learn about that, as we study it, as we practice it, we can become more of that. And by becoming that, we get into maybe what Napoleon Hill talks about as the sixth sense, a mystical energy connecting people and helping us learn things and understand things, or whether it's putting our brain into a certain state where we're receptive to these things, where we can see these subconscious things, these minute character traits and sights and smells and tastes and all of our senses working together to interpret what's going on around us and to send those same interpretations to other people. And understanding that these things are happening is something that we can recognize in our lives. And as we begin to recognize it, we can exercise that more. So I came up with a little slogan for that. As we recognize it, we can exercise it. And as we exercise it, we will recognize it. That might be a tongue twister if I say it 3 times fast. But as we understand what's happening when the brain is working, now it's wonderful to understand the deeper workings of it. But what really matters is the result. When we see that we are connecting with people, when we see that we are receiving inspiration, when we see that we are understanding, getting flashes of understanding, getting sudden motivation, when we have these feelings, we recognize them, take time to think about them, introspect about them. And as we do that, we can learn to exercise those same things that are causing it, so that those feelings happen more often and stronger. They're recognized more quickly. Exercising the brain, just like exercising our body. If you want to be a great baseball player, you do what my father did. He screwed a screw into a baseball, tied it to a string on a stick, and practiced hitting it. The more he did that, the better he got at hitting. His hand-eye coordination became better. He could see where the ball was going to come. He understood how he was hitting it. The brain works the same way. The more we exercise it and examine and recognize what's happening, and we tweak that so that we go deeper into understanding how we receive inspiration, how our brain works, how it motivates us. All of that's going to move us forward. It's not necessarily a deep mystical that we'll never understand, but it is a very physical exercising and recognizing that. So I want to close out my thoughts here with just those 3 steps. First, take time to introspect what you're doing in life. Introspect how your brain is working, your motivations, your inspiration, all of these things. And then as you incorporate these steps in Think and Grow Rich, you will start to become that person that you want to be. And allow yourself to become them. Don't be caught up in imposter syndrome and those things. We're all learning and growing and becoming. Allow yourself to become. And then finally, exercise and recognize how your brain is working and take the time to do that. So I'll close out with those 3 points: to introspect, become, and to exercise and recognize. And finish out that idea of Think and Grow Rich. As we've gone through these steps, continue to go back and say, am I doing that? Am I exercising each of those steps? Am I introspecting on those steps? And as we do this over and over again, we become stronger, faster, better, and become that person that we want to be, to think and grow rich, and rich in our lives, or whichever way we're looking for in our life. So I'll close with that, and thank you, and turn the time back to William.
Ian, thank you so much for that training. I love talking about these principles because every time we talk about them and every time we get golden nuggets from each other, as well as other people who are on here, it's amazing what comes out. Because each of us have our own different experiences. Each of us have our own different knowledge. When we can put it together, it's just like Napoleon Hill with mastermind methodologies. As we mastermind our minds together, as we bring in the brain and intuition, sixth sense together, it is crazy what comes out of it. And the greatest minds are the ones who put that into the universe. Ian, thank you so much for that. Now, I have the wonderful opportunity to share some of my own experiences and wisdom with each of you on the wonderful topic of the brain and sixth sense. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. This is one of my favorite quotes from Napoleon Hill because it lays out the synergy between our brain's power and the intuition guidance of the sixth sense. And if you think about it like this, the brain is the radio. So the radio, it broadcasts your thoughts and you turn into the signals of the world. That's what the brain is, because it's inputting and outputting, there we go, information and thoughts and receiving signals. The sixth sense is the signal that you receive when your radio is perfectly tuned and guiding you through the inspiration and your intuition. And as I thought more about that, I thought, how powerful is it when those two are working together? To have our brain, which is one of the most powerful things that we have as individuals, because our brain is the center. It is the engine that makes our car go. It is the thing that pushes us forward, that if it doesn't work, we ain't moving jack squat. Everything else fails. But when it works in perfect synchronicity with everything else, oh my goodness, the things that we can achieve. There's a University of Chicago. There's a study done by a doctor back in 1996. It was a basketball where they split up into 4 different groups. The control group was a basketball team who did not do anything. The goal was to shoot free throws for an hour. First group, control group, did nothing. Second control group, they were just shooting free throws over and over again for an hour. The third group were not shooting free throws. Instead, they were laying on the floor and visualizing within their minds shooting free throws. And if any of you have done visualization, we're talking like imagining yourself picking up the ball, feeling it in your hand. You know, I have my eyes closed because I'm visualizing it right now. Shooting it, feel the air go through our hands as it leaves it. Interpreting and looking at the exact direction, the curvature, there's another word, the arc of the basketball going into the hoop. The third team was visualizing it. And then the fourth one was doing both. They would take 10 minutes to shoot free throws, 10 minutes visualize, 10-minute free throws, 10-minute visualize for an hour. And at the end of this, it was shocking from the results. Obviously, you had the control group who, when they first started off, towards the hour later of doing nothing changed. Why would it, right? The second group, who were just shooting free throws, they were sitting at about 24-ish% better at free throw shooting. The ones who visualized in group 3, their improvature, that's a new word I'm going to use, was at 26% improvement on their free throw shots after an hour. Now that's crazy because group 2 and group 3 having almost the exact same thing, where one is shooting free throws and the other is just visualizing. How powerful is the brain? But let me add even more into it in group 4, who with group 4, the ones who were shooting free throws and visualizing it, they improved 36% more than the previous hour. Now you tell me, when you add your brain in there, of being able to tune in that radio, of being able to get that physical experience with the power of visualization, of being able to use our creative powerhouse in order to visualize the perfect moments. Putting those two together, you improve 36% over time, which is almost double that of the other two. That's crazy. And that's just to show you how our brains and intuition help us when it comes to limitless success. Not limited, because all of us limit ourselves at times, but limitless success. And I want to share 3 things with you, if I may, 3 tips that have helped me in my life, that when it comes to imagination and when it comes to being that creative powerhouse and listening to our intuition. 3 things that have helped me to break through my own barriers and help me achieve success in my area. The first one has to do with the brain, which is the creative powerhouse. Because in the brain, it broadcasts our thoughts and it attracts similar vibrations. Whatever you output, you input. There's that saying that goes around in the self-development world that you are the accumulation of the 5 people closest to you. That if you were to take 5 people who you spend the most time with, bring them in, you can have a pretty good guess on how you act and how you think. There's a reason for that. And the reason is because our brains, what we're surrounded by the most, what we input into ourselves, we're going to output the same. So if our mind is like a tape recorder, recording everything that's going on, our thoughts, things that we listen to, everything that we see, smell, touch, taste, if it's bringing all this information in, then it's going to output what's there the most. Because our brain, even though it's powerful, likes to be comfortable. It likes to do things on repetitive, so it doesn't use that much brain power. So whatever we take in over time brings out even more over time in the long term. So if you bring in toxicity, you bring in negativity, of course, that's what's going to pop out. But if you bring in positive thoughts, affirmations, then it's going to spew out success, resilience, positivity, right? Our brain is so powerful. So when we use that, our brain as our creative powerhouse, and we're able to take in and visualize things going our way, things being perfect, just like the basketball team, things going the perfect way, then the output is going to increase. The second thing is on the other side, which is the 6th sense, which is our inner compass. If you guys know what intuition is our gut feeling. Our intuition is that people say woman's intuition, where it's just like, that doesn't feel right. Right? That's what intuition is. It bridges the gap between logic and the infinite intelligence that's going all around. It's like our gut feelings, the flashes of inspiration that we had. Those are the things that can lead to breakthrough ideas. I remember this one time where I was just walking down the street with my wife, or up at Salt Lake at Temple Square, looking at the beautiful lights. And as we were walking, there was this individual just standing there next to the big pond, which was by the Salt Lake Temple. And they were just sitting there minding their own business. And I'm looking over at them, and for some reason, they just catch my eye. And as I'm looking at them, they don't have any different facial expression. They are just sitting there on their phone. But inside, I have this feeling that something is wrong. And I had this thought go up into thinking, you need to go over to that person and tell them that they are loved. And I thought this was a weird thing. And I'm like, that's weird. A complete stranger. I'm going to go up to them and tell them that they're loved. They're loved by God, and they're loved by the people that they're around with. But trusting myself, knowing that 9 out of 10 times my gut feeling works and my gut feeling is right. So I told my wife, I'm like, hey, give me a second. Walk over to the fountain, sit next to them. They're on their phone and they look up, kind of have that puzzled face on their face. Like, hi. And I'm like, hey, this is totally random. I'm just putting that out there. This is totally random. But I want you to know that God loves you. And I also want you to know that the people around you, that they love you as well. And that you're an awesome person. And then I stood up and walked away. I haven't seen that person since. I don't know who they are. I didn't even ask for their name. But I am for sure confident that whatever happened in that moment was a positive thing, was a great thing in their life. And I've had many experiences where I even got the fruit back. People even told me that changed their life. But it's those moments of our inner compass, that when we are aligned with ourselves, when our values and beliefs are matched together with our actions, that our inner compass is able to sync with our soul, and that we're able to then get those gut feelings and flashes of inspiration to then have those moments. And so how do you do that? How do you have those moments? In my experience, spend time with yourself. Like spend time 5 minutes a day in silence, reflection, just to get in tune with yourself. A lot of times we do things in the manner of we think we have to keep going and keep going. But I think subconsciously we realize that if we stop, we might actually find something out about ourselves. When it comes to the sixth sense and our inner compass, let's spend a little bit more time with ourselves because we know ourselves the best, and get in line between the logic and the infinite intelligence in this universe. Because I've had so many experiences of where that's worked, and that's what you can do to align that inner compass in you. And then the third tip is to bring them together and have the amplifying power through connection. Like mastermind groups, groups where people come together, like Champion Circle. These elevate the collective brain power, they foster creativity, and they bring out that intuition that we just talked about. Like sparks and insights. If any of you have been to a mastermind or have done groups with the mastermind methodologies, you know that when you're in there, it is crazy when you bring like-minded people together for a common cause, what can happen. When you put one person in the spotlight and they're just 100% selfish, being like, this is the challenge that's going on in my life, I don't know what to do. And then everyone else in that group being 100% selfless and sharing their resources, connections, everything that they have to be able to help this individual with the challenge, it is so powerful. And every time I've done this in the correct way that Napoleon Hill lays out in Think and Grow Rich, oh my goodness, I have never walked away from one of those things without golden nuggets or the next step I need to take. So that third thing to help break through that and hit limitless success, get people around you, build connections, amplify that power through those connections. Join a mastermind or join a group that focuses on Think and Grow Rich, hashtag Go Champion Circle. Those groups of people who are like-minded, bringing together to become champions in their lives, that is powerful. And that is how you can break through the limit glass that you have right now and into the realm of results and success. As I close, let me share this final thought with you. Your brain and your sixth sense are your ultimate tools. Feed your mind, trust your gut, surround yourself with energy individuals, high-level energy individuals, because they're going to help you unlock your limitless potential. This life is for us to be able to go out and be happy, go out and find joy, and to get the results that we want. The universe is going to give us what we put out into it, and as we serve other people, continue to give, we are going to receive as well. So combine your brain, combine the sixth sense together, go visualize, focus on yourself in the manner of getting that intuition centered within you, and then get people around you who are doing the same, because it is then that you're going to break through that limiting glass and reach the goals and desires that you want. I appreciate each of you for letting me share. And as my throat gets groggy from talking too much and getting over the sickness I have over the weekend, I appreciate you, champions, for letting me share with you. And with that being said, we're going to turn to the final speaker, the founder of Champion Circle, Mr. Jon Kovach Jr., who is going to give us the wonderful training and wrapping up this wonderful year of the brain and the sixth sense. Jon, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Willie. Man, I'm so inspired by how Napoleon Hill takes us through these 13 steps leading from the inside of what we truly want, our desires, and it leads to faith, and then the amazing superpowers that come from within, our abilities to make decisions, to choose, and to do all of these things. And I love that the training today has reflected the tools that we need. And we can imagine both our brain as the physical tool and the sixth sense as that intangible tool that's always accessible to us. Let me start with this. Napoleon Hill describes the sixth sense as the 13th steps to riches, and he calls it the door of, he calls it the door to the temple of wisdom, which is obtained through intelligence, infinite intelligence. Here at Champion Circle, we also call it your brain's superpower. So I want to share a story with you about a hidden superpower that we all have. No, it's not X-ray vision or the ability to fly, although that would be pretty awesome. Our superpower is more for practical and equally as magical uses, and it's called our intuition. You might be wondering, Jon, intuition, really? Is that like a superhero's gut feeling when the villain's about to strike? Exactly, actually. Intuition is our internal compass. It's our sixth sense. It's the ability, and it guides us even when logic is screaming, nope, turn back. Like that's not the path you want to go down. I first realized for me the power of intuition during a church service project that we called senior night, but in secret. We actually called this the geezer pleaser. Don't tell anyone. So imagine this. I had to plan an evening of fun for a room full of senior citizens, but I had no clue what they wanted or what they were interested in. Bingo, polka music, a magic show. Conventional wisdom would have suggested surveys or or focus groups, but who has time for any of that? I invested my time in my ability to look within. So instead, I relied on my intuition. I thought, what would bring connection and joy? Just by asking that question, like I felt like I was tapping into this infinite library of experiences and knowledge of what makes people in general tick. So we threw together and planned a list of activities such as dinner, impromptu jokes, music, and some comedy sketches, and we hoped for the best. But on the night of the event, my secret superpower kicked in as we intuitively felt out the vibe of the room and each senior's tables, reading the room's energy. I adapted the entire thing as it went on. And guess what? It was such a hit. Not just a hit, but it became an annual tradition, doubling in size, doubling in budget, and the laughter grew every year. Turns out seniors really like bad jokes, good company, all over a decent meal. But although that formula isn't like common knowledge, we accomplish this by harnessing the intuitive superpower. So intuition is an action. What I learned from this experience is that intuition isn't just some mystical thing. It's like Wi-Fi connection to infinite wisdom. It's amazing. So when you trust it, it guides you to the solutions you're looking for, even in the most uncertain situations. Think about this. So intuition has been part of human survival for centuries. And ancient explorers didn't have GPSs. Imagine if they did. That'd be such a funny thought. But yet they did discover entire continents. So why? Did they trust their gut? Or maybe they were just really bad with directions, but all in all, it all worked. So here's the science and the fun. So put on your lab coats, everybody, and your goggles. Here, we're about to get scientific. Science even backs up the superpower theory. And intuition bridges our five senses with the inner world, combining experience and instinct to guide us, to give us direction. And yes, while it might feel like a mystical power, it's actually your brain doing some of that next level problem solving. The brain is one of the biggest underdogs of our world. It is constantly working, even if you're not aware of what it's working on. That clutter, that pile in the corner that you've been avoiding for weeks, months, maybe even years, your brain acknowledges its existence, submits that to the subconscious, and helps that live through your life. And yes, if you have moments of frustration or moments where clarity is not clear, And when you are unorganized, that's because of the pile hanging out in your room, or the painting that you haven't fixed, that it got nudged by the children and it's been off for a couple months. Okay. Those little things, the brain takes note of it, scans your environment, even when you're not directly or deliberately looking at them, and it knows. So everything in your life is playing out because of your immediate surroundings. The brain operates. And even if you can't see, if you're blind, your brain is still operating by other senses, and it's a complete game changer. But let's keep it real. Sometimes intuition is hilariously off sometimes. Like when you get that gut feeling to buy lottery tickets because, well, today's the day. Spoiler alert, it's usually never that day. But other times, intuition hits the mark so perfectly that it feels like magic. So you just know something will happen, right? But no matter what the situation might be, I recommend trusting that intuitive feeling and doing what fulfills you. So here are some practical steps for tapping into your intuition. I can't just leave you hanging without a few superhero training tips to strengthen your intuition. So here are my top tools and daily practices. Tool number one, visualization. Close your eyes, breathe, and picture your goals unfolding. Your intuition loves a clear mental picture. It's like a GPS, but it won't reroute you through endless traffic. It will take you wherever you are supposed to go and supposed to do. Tool number two, breathe like a superhero. Try this 4-4-6 method. 4-4-6. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds. That alone can calm the chaos. It can create clarity in your brain and your mind, and it lets your intuition sneak in like a ninja in the night, taking over and disrupting those subconscious thoughts that are being cluttered by the things in your life that aren't in order. So, tool number three is journal your inner genius. I want you to write things down. Like if you get sick of me saying these three words, uh, just know that I'm going to double down on it. Write it down. Write it out. Write out your gut feelings. Ask questions like, what's my inner voice telling me today? Or why did I eat that second slice of cake for dessert last night? I'm just kidding. Answers will surface no matter what you ask, at least for one of those questions, right? And my tool number four is serve first. So here's a twist. Focus on helping others. When you shift your energy and your mindset to serving others, intuition steps in as the best guide and the best way forward. It's like having a sidekick in your superhero journey. It's your Robin to your Batman-ness. And I got to joke with you because I have a meme that's my favorite meme. And it's a picture of a cat wearing a Batman mask. And the quote says, always be yourself, dot, 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 unless you can be Batcat. Always be Batcat. That's the higher power, the best version of ourselves talking. So in that moment, you have a Robin and you are the Batman-ness to your intuition. It's phenomenal. So why does all this matter? Let's face it, life doesn't always make sense, but intuition bridges the gap between logic in the brain to what lies beyond that infinite intelligence. It connects us to something greater, a higher purpose. So I'm going to obliterate this name, but let me give you my best French accent. The French philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. How did I do, guys? French philosopher Pierre Chardin said, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Think about that. Your intuition isn't just a survival tool. It's your guide to living authentically, courageously, and connected. So here's my challenge to each of you. The next time you face a decision, big or small, pause, close your eyes, envision, take a breath, Listen to that quiet, persistent whisper inside you. Trust it. Because here's the truth. You've had this superpower all along. Everything you need is already inside you. And when you tap into it, you're not just navigating life, you're thriving, you're leading, and you're creating traditions that will outlast you. So go ahead, be the superhero in your story. I have a hat with me, and I don't wear it as often as I'd like, but this hat I picked up, and the sign, the little message here on the front says, be the hero of your own story. I love that message. Here's another one. These internal messages. Influencer, right? Be the influencer of your life. So be the superhero in your own story. And remember, your intuition isn't just a guide. It's your greatest ally in living a life full of purpose, wisdom, and joy. I'm Jon Kovach Jr. Thank you.
Jon, thank you so much for that training. It is so true that we can be the superheroes of our own story. We can be the influencer of our life, and we can be the hero of everything that we do. So thank you so much for that reminder. Thank you for each of our speakers today for sharing their experience. And thank you, champions, for sticking around and being here with us for this wonderful training on wrapping up the principles for this year of The Brain and the Sixth Sense by Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. If you guys have those questions, if you guys have those moments, if you guys want to commit to something further, you can always find us at mychampionscircle.com. But my friends, always remember as we close that you are the hero in your own journey. You are the influencer in your life, and you are the superhero of your story. So continue to be that. And we'll see you on the next one, champions.